Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for a minute. It is with great regret that we have to let you go so soon, Mark. But as you know, the sales figures in your area have dropped. Obviously, it would have helped if you had had a driving license. But I'm sure you'll be very happy in your new position as soon as you find one somewhere else. Please accept this gift as a token of your service here, a pack of dental floss engraved with the company logo.
About Mark's replacement.
You've replaced Mark?
No, I thought you were going to.
Yes, of course I am.
Look, we're very overloaded at the moment, as you know, and it would be a real help if somebody could start as soon as possible.
Yes, I'll look into it when I can. I've already got somebody coming in about the rep's job tomorrow, and I've got to find another receptionist, someone who doesn't think that coffee break is the bit between Monday and Friday. But look, I'll pop some ads in the paper as soon as I've got a moment.
Cheers.
What did Mike do again?
Unlike him, most of us know there's a lot more to recruitment than simply popping an ad in the paper. Yet despite all the time and effort we put into filling vacancies, we can still end up with people who are not right for the job. Some are simply not up to it, while others have all the right skills but seem incapable of applying them. So why is it that people who seem so right for the job when we hired them can turn out to be so disappointing? Maybe it's because we choose people for the wrong reasons.
Next. Come in. Now, let's just see if you can step into George's shoes, shall we?
Yes. No. Well, I'll need a graduate. Arts, not science, of course. With a good telephone manner. I'm very experienced. Preferably Leo, but I will consider someone born on the cusp.
Mr. Elliot? I must say I like your style. I think you might be just the man we're looking for. Tell me more about yourself.
I believe it's very easy to recruit the wrong people simply because not enough time is spent on thinking about the sort of person that's needed to fill a role before the exercise is begun. Very often people immediately dive into placing an advert or looking round for people without having put together a proper profile of the correct sort of person, with the idea of, well, we'll look and see what's out there and I'm sure we'll recognise what we want when we see it.
We then tend to fall back on our own subjective experience. We select people we like. We select people who are like us. We then are more likely to fall in the trap of discriminating against candidates with experience different from our own.
Financially, the Institute of Personnel Management would indicate that the cost of recruiting the wrong person is as much as twice their annual salary. Beyond that, there are ramifications for the company as a whole. Certainly, the morale and motivation of a team, if the recruitment exercise is either protracted or the person comes in and actually unsettles the dynamics of that team.
The way to avoid all these common mistakes is by following some very specific procedures, which start way back, long before the first applicant comes knocking on your door. This requires planning, and the first step is to check out just what kind of vacancy you have to fill.
Job description is very important to the recruitment process because it provides the opportunity for you to rethink what exactly are the areas that this job involves. What are the key areas for which the person is responsible? What are the key activities the person is going to be involved with? What results do they actually provide? If you take the time to thoroughly understand the job, not just use an existing job description, but revisit it, look at it again, and decide, can it be changed? You then have a much better basis for understanding the type of person you want to recruit.
You should go about defining the job by looking very carefully to see precisely what a person does, Not what you think they do, but actually what they do. And the best people to talk to are the people actually doing the job, as well as the person who's actually managing the job.
So talk to colleagues, talk to the person, if possible, that is leaving the post, get a picture of what the requirements are, get a picture of any changes that might have taken place. For instance, there might have been the introduction of new technology or reorganisations within the department.
This vacancy in your department, Steve, I've been thinking about the advertisement, thought I should check out a few details with you. As a job title, I rather fancy Environmental Hygiene Controller. What do you think?
Environmental Hygiene Controller? A little bit on the grand side, maybe?
Yes, but we do want to attract the right calibre of applicant, don't we? I'll have one nautical surprise with pomme de terre sauté, please.
One fish and chips.
Then I thought, flexible hours. Sounds quite cosy.
Likely to stretch into compulsory overtime is more like it.
Well, I recommend the Hawaiian pork parcels with Lyonnaise potatoes.
One sausage and mash.
Cute. OK, personal wardrobe allowance. That'll attract a smarter type.
I'd prefer overalls provided. It's slightly more honest.
Shame. It doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it? What about generous expense account, then?
Why not stick to subsidised canteen?
Really, Steve, you're making this sound very ordinary.
But it is. We're not exactly looking for a nuclear physicist.
Pity.
Either of you want a smooth blend of aromatic Mexican nectar?
Eh?
Coffee?
No, thank you.
So what about Environmental Hygiene Controller?
I suppose I'll just have to put office cleaner.
The job description needs to attract candidates, but it has to be an accurate description of the job, because otherwise you'll attract the wrong candidate, or you'll create expectations in the role which you can't fulfill later.
Now that we've sorted out exactly what the job is, we can then start to think about what the person needs to be able to carry out the job. Skills, knowledge, attitude, or as they are collectively known, our recruitment criteria.
When determining the recruitment criteria, one needs to carefully analyse the job to ascertain the skills and experience which are required to do it. Now, in order to achieve this, one might first of all start with the job description itself, then talking to supervisors or people that have immediate knowledge of the position to determine what the key criteria might be. Ideally, we're looking for 5 or 6.
Key criteria should include any qualifications which are absolutely essential to do that job, the range of experience that you need in terms of doing that job, the specific skills that you want the person to be able to demonstrate in the interview process or on their application form in terms of doing their job.
Sorry.
Okay. Anthony, we've agreed that we need an additional designer. Tell us more about who you're looking for.
Money-wise, we're talking senior designer.
Are you sure you need another designer at that level? I mean, we've got 2 already. What's this one going to do, paint our portraits?
Sarah has gone over to the furnishing side, which means that garment prints are falling behind. We need to inject some new blood.
Why don't we hire a doctor? It'd probably be cheaper.
We're not talking college leaver here, Geoffrey. They'll need to have a proven track record in textile design. I want them to concentrate on women's wear prints from start to finish. So they'll need a sense of what is original, commercial, and appropriate to the company's style.
So our first criteria is market awareness.
I also want them to contribute to departmental creative sessions where we discuss market trends and formulate our range identity for the season.
That sounds like teamwork. We've talked before about empowering the designers to deal more directly with the retailers. Is this something we want to include?
Absolutely. Let them take the flak directly. That should add colour to the designs.
It's not just about conflict, Geoffrey. Though you do have a point, there can be some sticky moments with the retailers or internally in the print room. Merchandising.
You better put down problem solving as another criteria.
Recruitment criteria are a constant reference point that stop you being subjective and being sidetracked by other considerations. So in fact, you're comparing the candidate against recruitment criteria rather than comparing the candidates with each other.
It provides us with a checklist which enables us to say, this person has the experience and skills to meet the demands of the job description. It's more objective because you're making comparisons between candidates on the basis of criteria rather than on a subjective basis. It enables you to avoid discrimination because you're using just the criteria for the job and not arbitrary characteristics such as age, gender, sex, on which to make your decision.
Once we've decided the recruitment criteria, the next step is to work out a way to assess how applicants measure up to each of these criteria. We need to set performance standards.
Setting performance standards helps to identify not just what you want in very vague terms, but what basically makes that person or that element of the job successful. Because at the end of the day, what any company wants to recruit is not people who are just going to do an adequate job. We want people who are going to be successful in their jobs. And those performance standards should be highlighting what really indicates success in that particular role.
Essentially, there are two approaches to the creation of performance standards. The first is the behavioural approach. In this, you look at and observe key effective performers. You look at what those people who do the job well are actually doing. How do they behave when they do the job? In the second approach, the competency method, you analyse the job. One way of doing this is to get a group of people together to actually look at the job, analyse the various activities and come to decisions about the competence that people need to perform that job.
Okay, let's say that a problem crops up and our new recruit is unable to meet a deadline.
Typical.
And the retailer doesn't get their sample on time. How would a good performer handle it?
Ideally, he or she would let the retailer know as soon as possible. They'd apologise and negotiate a new deadline, keeping me informed all the way.
Okay. And what would an average performance be?
They'd let me know about the problem, but then leave it to me to contact the retailer and smooth things over.
And what would we consider poor?
They'd realise there was going to be a problem meeting the deadline, but keep quiet about it till the last minute. And then they'd refuse to take any responsibility for it.
Blame everybody else, you mean? I do hate people with that sort of negative attitude.
So once we've decided on performance standards for every criterion on the list, we have completed our planning stage. Planning involves drawing up an accurate job description that focuses on the tasks and duties that the job holder will be spending most of their time on. Deciding on the key recruitment criteria, the skills, knowledge and attitude that the person needs to carry out those tasks. And setting performance standards for each of the criteria on a rating scale from poor through average to good. Now that we know exactly what we want, we can start looking at ways in which applicants can prove they've got it. We need evidence. And the first chance we get to examine evidence is when we get these.
Thanks.
Post's arrived.
No, not more application forms. Dump them in the bin. We've got more than enough as it is.
Don't you think we ought to look at them first? You never know.
Oh, all right. Let's sort out anything written with a coloured biro, anyone over 50, and any names you can't pronounce. I'll look at the rest. Can't say fairer than that.
It's important when shortlisting to remain objective, because the minute you look at the application forms, a dozen different impressions of the candidates will come off the page at you: what school they went to, what age they are, what gender they are, and so on. So you should remember your performance criteria that you've previously set and use those as a reference point.
Good practice these days to avoid discrimination, it is suggested, is an application form that is designed to ask questions that are really specific to the criteria for the job and do not pursue all the sorts of areas about personal background and dependence and all those sort of things.
And it should be very clear that the people who are interviewing know what the law on discrimination is. And I think, thirdly, you should have the attitude that what you're looking for is the best person to do the job, and to maintain an open mind about that.
Right, Tom, any questions?
No, I don't think so.
OK, then I'll leave you to it.
Great. No messing, I'll crack on. Hey, you won't believe it, but in my last job, they used to call me an environmental hygiene controller.
Some people can be so pretentious.
Yeah.